Peace. Yo, today is cold, boy. So I'm gonna make this build kind of short, you know. It's like one of the most important aspects of knowledge of self is being honest with who you are. You know what I'm saying? Being able to look at your inclinations, you know, different proclivities you have, different habits, different conditionings, you know, knowing when your ego's doing all the talking and running its mouth and when it's not, you know what I'm saying? You know, looking at, you know, the things that you're good at honestly and the things you're not so good at honestly. And it's like a lot of times, you know, that's difficult for people, especially, you know, if you've gone through, you know, experiences where you're still healing, you know what I'm saying? And that's open wounds. And it's hard to sit there and to look at these open wounds, you know what I mean? Especially if they're not really healed yet. But it's like, in order to actually go through a healing process, you got to look at them. You know what I'm saying? You got to look at them. And it's like, within a person gaining knowledge of self, you know, you have the best part of who you are, you have the poor part, and you have the worst part, you know? And it's like, you know, even though, you know, you have to look at these worst parts and these poor parts of yourself, the idea is to preserve the best part of yourself, meaning that you don't dwell on the poor part and the worst part. You acknowledge it, you know what I'm saying, but you don't sit there and, you know, just set up a pity party with the motherfuckers, you know what I'm saying? You acknowledge what it is, and then you work on those things and become strong in those areas, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, think about the good things of what you have to offer, you know what I mean? And that also goes, you know, for, you know, the people that you deal with in your cipher or people that you see outside of your cipher. Look for the best things in them, you know what I mean? Look for those things that they bring to the table that are good, you know what I'm saying? And don't just sit there and dwell on the poor part or the worst part, because you could drive yourself crazy about that shit, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you see enough of that bullshit on the news, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, you know, think about the good things that you have to offer to yourself and to your mate and to your family and to your community, you know what I'm saying? And appreciate and have gratitude for those things, you know what I'm saying? And it's like knowledge of self is just developing those good areas and strengthening those areas that are not so good, you know what I mean? And it's not, you know, meant, and it's not a process of and I think when you look at building and destroying, right? Destroying is essentially destructuring, you know what I'm saying? Meaning that you are breaking things down in order to build them back up. You know what I'm saying? Don't confuse that with just annihilation, you know what I'm saying, or something like that. Destroying is a process of destructuring, you know what I'm saying? Breaking things down in order to put it back together again, you know what I'm saying? So that it's something that adds on instead of something that is taken away, you know what I mean? And it's like destroying is not negative. You know what I'm saying? It can be considered negative, just like building could be considered negative. But it's like when you're dealing with a concept of preserving the best part for yourself, you're always looking at things as a challenge. You know what I'm saying? Not a setback or nothing that's not something that is like, oh shit, if it ain't one thing, it's another. Or damn, what is it now? You're not looking at things that way. You're looking at it like, okay, how can I learn from this? How could I grow from this? How could I develop from this? How could I become a better person to myself, to my mate, to my family, and to my community through all of this? So it's a challenge, you know what I'm saying? You look at the things you go through as challenges, you know what I'm saying? Not setbacks, not roadblocks, and things like that, you know what I mean? Because the outlook of knowledge of self is a positive outlook. It's not a negative doomsday rapture type outlook, you know what I'm saying? It's a positive outlook, and it's a process of continuous and progressive growth and development, you know what I'm saying? So it's like that begins with you sifting through your qualities, your attributes, finding the things that are good, the things that are not so good, you know what I'm saying, and working with those things, and figuring out, okay, I can add a little here, I can take away a little here, and it's a peaceful and it's a positive process, you know what I'm saying, and it's like, maybe some guys and nerds don't look at it that way, you know what I'm saying, and when you see them, they always, looking all hard and angry and screw-facing motherfuckers and shit like that. They haven't matured to the point where, Allah's in his own good time. They're not having a good time with this yet because they haven't progressed to that point where they have found that sense of peace, essentially, you know what I'm saying, and happiness. But it's like, even though you may come across people like that, that's all, hard and shit, and, they always talking about negative bullshit and, motherfuckers dying and eating the wrong foods and they just angry and all of this. Even though you may come across people that carry it like that, that is not the determined idea of what this way of life is about. That's not the essential reality of the way in which this should be lived out. You know what I'm saying? It's peace and it's happiness. You know what I'm saying? And in that peace and happiness, you have love for what you're doing, love for your best parts, and even love for the things that may not be considered so good because it's going to bring out the best in what you are offering to people as well as yourself. You know what I mean? So, I just wanted to say that in the process of you gaining knowledge of yourself, it's a positive and it's a productive thing. You know what I'm saying? It's not a negative thing. And even though you may look at things in yourself and be like, well, no, that's not so good, work with it. Something good is going to come out of it. You know what I'm saying? Something good is always going to come out of it, But it's like it's the way in which you look at it, It's the way in which you look at it. So peace.